I am Katie White, and this is By the Book, Enhancing Relationships Through Literature. Our mission here at By the Book is to connect people with books that foster personal growth and strengthen relationships with family and friends. We believe the best relationship advice is already out there, and we're here to help you discover it. Today, we have my Aunt Taneil Specht with us. She has so kindly agreed to be on the podcast, and I'm super excited to talk with her today. She's been my aunt my entire life. She married my Uncle Dave before I was born, and I've always just been super happy and grateful to have her around. She received her bachelor's degree in health science from Brigham Young University in 2000, where she met her husband, my Uncle Dave, who is my mom's brother. She's the mother of six. Her oldest is 23, and her youngest is seven. She's co-authored two books with her husband, Dave Specht. She spends a lot of her time supporting her kids and her husband in their activities and participates in a lot of community service. When she does find time for herself, she likes to dabble in interior design and some demolition for some remodeling projects. As we have seen in the last few years, she's been working on a project in her house and some other things, I'm sure too. But thank you so much for joining us today, Tennille. I'm so excited to talk with you and hear about the book that you chose to talk with us about.
Thanks, Kate. It's always fun to be with you.
Thanks, Tennille. Okay, so let's just start off talking about which book you chose and why you chose it.
So, the book that I chose is called Bonds That Make Us Free. Healing Our
Okay.
Relationship, Coming to Ourselves is kind of the subtitle of it. It's by Dr. C. Terry Warner. It's actually been around for about 25 years, and
Oh, wow.
I'm shocked that it's not more prevalent everywhere in our universities, in our homes, in our churches. It's just so good. Dr. Warner has a PhD from Yale.
Okay.
He was a professor and actually spent some time at Oxford, but I think he's probably um, most well known for his founding of the Arbinger Institute, which is very well known and very well respected in
Oh, wow. I think I do remember you telling me that. I love the Arbinger Institute. I've read a few
that.
of their books. That's very
Yeah,
cool.
and the work they do is just really amazing. So anyway, I this book has just become a favorite of mine, and yeah, I wish everyone in the world had access to what it offers. So it's good
Yeah.
stuff.
Okay, well, I'm excited to talk to you about it, with you about it today. I know you've told me about it a little bit before, and it's on my list of books to read, but I haven't quite gotten to it yet. So I'm excited to learn about it a little bit more. Um, Neil, how did you find the book, or how were you introduced to it?
You know, I feel like I came across it. It's kind of funny that you were when I was like, how did I find this book? I feel like I came across that it was mentioned to me by someone who I'm very close to who was going through a really difficult time and wasn't difficult enough they were not able to read the book and process the information. Sometimes when we're just really struggling,
Mm.
new stuff, we don't have the bandwidth to process it. So actually I didn't read it at first. I listened to it when I was working. Um, and I could not listen to it fast enough. I had it like on 1.5 speed. I just like couldn't get it. And I listened to it back to back 2 times in a row, like straight through, like while over the probably like 2 days. It was just
Wow,
like
that's how you know it's good.
been all my life, it was just so good. And um yeah, and it was just like I wish I would have had this 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And the more I listened to it, the more it just seemed like it had things that could apply to every stage of life. And I think the reason why that is the information in it is presented in a series of like stories, and it's stories of people's lives and their challenges, and they just try to um, use those stories to illustrate a principle, and they're not trying to tell you what to do, and they're definitely not saying this is what you should do. They're expecting that the reader is going to have enough intelligence, and that every person is born with the ability to know what they need in their life if they're simply given the right information to inspire the right response. So in the world of self-help books, this is not one that's going to like tell you what to do. In fact, they try very hard to not tell you what to do.
Mm,
It's very much, here is a story, here is the principle. Now try to figure out how that works for you in your life. And the way that they talk about it is that we all have a light in us, and as we can honor the light in us and do justice to those inspirations that we're giving and act on them quickly, that that light in us will respond to the light in other people. And as we have that, that connection of light between people, natural, healthy relationships are the result. So that's very simplified. It's just so but hopefully that gives you kind of an idea of where what it's about and where it goes.
yeah. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. I'm really excited to get into this book, especially hearing that you listened to it twice back to back. That that is how you know. That's how you know it's a good one. Well, this sounds super awesome. I'm super excited to now transfer to the part of the podcast where Tennille is going to teach us a mini lesson or kind of a main principle of what the book teaches, one of her main takeaways, and how that relates to relationships. So I'll turn the mic back to you, Tennille, to tell us a little bit more.
Sure. Okay. I think the way I'm going to do this, I'm actually going to share one of the stories that he finishes the book up with. So we'll kind of
Perfect.
where he finishes, and um, one of the things he's trying to teach everyone is you have the power within yourself to overcome whatever obstacle is in front of you, and you're not reliant on how somebody else responds to or what they've done to you or how they respond to you. You can operate completely independent of both of those things in a healthy way that leaves you free to just live a happy life. And he talks about how our emotional problems are the accusations that we make of others right now. They are not scars from the past, but they are actions in the present. So even if somebody did something really horrible to us in the past, our response to it in the present actually gives it power or takes that power away from it and pulls that power back into ourselves to move forward in a healthy, happy way. So he
Mm,
shares this that's not his story, but he is a letter he received from someone named Jay. And Jay has a sister that has been married for several years, and the sister comes to him and tells him she's going to have to leave her husband. She found out that her husband has had multiple extramarital affairs. She's completely broken. She's so ashamed, she's so hurt, and he's just sick for her, and he just can't believe that it happened. Like he had no idea that this was going on. So he feels like he's got to go and confront her husband. So he goes and he talks to her husband, and he's like, what's going on? What's happening? He's like, something isn't being talked about. And so he starts to cry. And he's like, I felt like I had to do this because my sister came to me. She came to me because my father had passed away. I was like the figurehead in the family, whatever. So he starts to pry with his brother-in-law. And his brother-in-law tells him that basically throughout their entire married life, she has withheld intimacy from him. And her brother's like shocked. And he immediately thinks of, she was raped when she was 12 years old. And they thought that she'd gone through counseling for a couple of years. It seemed like she had moved on. And so the entire family thinks that she's moved on. And so they're going to move on as well. She gets married to a great guy. It seems like everything's going well. And then all of a sudden, like it's like it all hits the fan, whatever. And she's going to leave him. And so, he just talks about how his first thought for him in this situation was that if he doesn't help her understand that there's a way out of this, that she'll never see her way out of it. And that if is that this is what he says, I felt that if I didn't watch out, I would help her paint her situation in the darkest colors and she would never see her way out of it. If I really loved her, I couldn't stand by while she ruined 2 lives because of her fears. Off and on for more than an hour, as I drove to her house, I sobbed uncontrollably. So he gets there and she starts crying and she's like, he's shamed me so much. I can't do anything but leave him. I feel like he's already left me. And he's like, no, that's not true. He says, you never consummated your marriage appropriately. And she's like, oh no, yes, I did. And, I always, that's not important. I've always let him lie close to me. I've always let him be affectionate. We've been affectionate. The physical is important. And he's like, this is what he says. I need to tell you something. And I was speaking pretty forcefully because my heart was breaking for her. You knew of the challenges you would have had before you married Frank, and you've put a terrible burden on him and blamed it on something that happened to you years ago. It doesn't need to be this way. What you did is worse than what he did, and what he did is reprehensible. You have been mean and stingy and shriveled and small and unwilling to love, and willing to let him suffer because of it. If you don't go home with your husband tonight and love him as you're supposed to love him, I am going to testify against you in the divorce proceedings. You go home right now, you do the right thing, and you get this all behind you. You can
Wow.
imagine, oh, right? I'm like, what? You can imagine how stunned she was and how angry. When I left, she was so upset she couldn't even speak to me. But I'll tell you that she came to my house the next morning before I even left for work. She hugged me and the tears were flooding down her face. And she said that what I had told her had changed her life forever. Jay, she said, you're the first person who ever talked straight to me. Everyone else helped me think I couldn't do it. But last night, I went home and I loved Frank with all the physical and emotional completeness that a person can, all of it. And I'm not afraid anymore. Jay, it's hard to believe, but I don't hate the man who did that awful thing to me anymore either. And
Wow. That is
I
an
know
amazing story.
it's so powerful, and the whole book is full of small stories and big stories just like that, where somebody responds in a way that you're not expecting because they have a thought in their mind or in their heart, like, this is what I should do, and they have the courage to act on it even though it seems like, whoa, but
Hmm.
it's all the goodness in them looking at the goodness in someone else and seeing the power in someone else. And so I just loved it because I loved the fact that she could heal herself. She didn't need the man who raped her to apologize to her or to be jailed or to be, to have the justice come down on him for her to be free. Like, I don't even know what happened with him. And she had the power. It was all in her hands to heal her marriage. It wasn't in the hands of her husband, actually, who was cheating on her. It was actually in her hands. And it was just, yeah, it was like not the response that that I was expecting to fix it, I guess.
Yeah.
That and it was all about, and that's what he said. He's, through the book, he's like, you don't try to advise people. You're trying to teach all of us to recognize that light in ourselves that gives us that first thought. We know what to do, but we get into the habit of pushing it down, justifying, pushing it away, and all these different things. And he said, the people that live the most free and most happy are the ones who are really good at responding to that first genuine good thought without talking themselves out of it or talking themselves into something else. That then they, as soon as you do that, he teaches, you enter into these weird side relationships that cause other people to respond to you in weird sideways,
Hmm.
where straight ahead, even though it seems weird or it seems awkward or you're like, how is this going to work out? It just does. And it's usually in a cleaner, smoother, more powerful way than any other thing you try. And so it's and I know that I had been taught everything in this book in different times, in different ways, in my home, in my church. But for whatever reason, just the way it was presented, it felt new. And so I think that's why I felt like I had to just listen to it as fast as I could and again. And right now, honestly, I still, on my best days, I listen to it for 20 or 30 minutes a day, just cycling through this book, because I feel like it's just something I want to be really good at. And
Mm.
that little reminder every day is like practice, I guess. I don't know.
Well,
Yeah, really good stuff.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. I am definitely going to prioritize this book. I bought it on Audible a few months ago when you were talking to me about it and haven't gotten to it yet, but sounds like that's what I'm listening to this weekend, and it's gonna be I'm so excited. And I'll call you and talk to you about it after I'm done reading it. I'm so excited, so excited about this. Wow.
Yeah,
Well,
do it. Really good.
yeah. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time and sharing this book with us. Is there anything else you want to add before we wrap this up?
I just had the thought the other day I, as I was reading to my little kids at night. So I have a 7-year-old and an 11-year-old and at home, and so I read to them at night. And when my oldest kids were little, we read a lot more um, like modern fantasy. We read a lot of Harry Potter, good stuff, fun stuff.
Yes.
But kids, as my I've read more classic literature with my little kids than I did with my older kids. And even if you don't have time to spend in this kind of book, or self-help isn't your thing, I would say, especially if you have little kids at home, listen to and read to your children classic books. I think the stories in classic books are for children. The lessons are for teenagers, but the humor is for adults. My mom tried to get me to read Anne of Green Gables when I was in high school, and I was so not interested. I think I would have loved it as a little kid, but as a teenager, I was like, yeah, no, not interested. I ended up listening to it when I was a young mother, and it was hilarious. It is so funny, but I don't think I would have gotten the jokes as a teenager. But I think if I would have loved the book as a child, I would have read it as a teenager and understood the lessons and the principles that would have blessed my life as a teenager, but I just wasn't interested. I'm pretty sure my mom was trying to get me to read the book because there was a lesson she wanted me to learn. That was
Classic mom.
And so whatever stage you're at in life, spending time listening, reading, just absorbing classic books. The reason why this book I think works for anybody, any age, any stage, is because all it is stories, and it's saying take these stories, try to pull out the principle and apply it in your life. And I think that that's the same thing with any literature that's lasted the test of time. Like if it's been around for 100 years, there's a reason,
Right.
and it's just so worth our time. And there's so many things that we can be consumed with, but there's just something about holding a book, sitting down and holding a book in your hands and reading it. Or if you're working with your hands and listening to a book, there's something about that that I think we all need a little bit more of in our busy world.
I'm totally with you there. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you for joining us today and taking time out of your busy day, Neil, to be with us. Thank you to our listeners for joining us today on By the Book. We hope that you've enjoyed your time with us. The link to this book on Amazon and Audible will be in the show notes to make it easy for you to be able to access it if you are interested. Let us know in the comments also if you end up reading the book and what your main takeaways are and the lessons that you learn. We'll see you next time. This podcast was created to help fulfill a class requirement in my teaching family life education class taught by Dr. Daryl Higgins at Brigham Young University, Idaho, as I work towards a bachelor's degree in marriage and family studies. Thank you so much.